First, let's hit play and bring up the console window and enter stat unit to see the game time and draw time and GPU time. According to the reading, GPU time is at 13.5 milliseconds and frame time is at 13.7 milliseconds. This should immediately raise the flag for us because the frame time should be the largest value between game, draw, and GPU time. Since the difference is tiny, we can decide not to dig too much into this discrepancy as it can happen for a variety of reasons such as GPU-CPU clock conversion accuracy, as well as the fact that the CPU time is measuring frame n, while GPU time could be measuring n-1. Another area of concern is that the game time is also high at 13 milliseconds, but since the GPU is the last stage of the rendering pipeline, let's investigate GPU first. The reason to work on bottlenecks in the reverse order is because there is a chance that the game thread is waiting for something in the later stages to finish. Once we optimize the GPU workload, the game time might also decrease, or it can become a new bottleneck. To find out the cause of high GPU time, let's relaunch the game through RenderDoc and make a capture. After we open the capture file, we'll click on the clock icon to measure the replay of the capture frame. RenderDoc is telling us it takes 15.5 milliseconds to replay the single capture frame. This is slightly off from the 13 milliseconds from earlier, but is still within a reasonable range of frame time fluctuation because we are measuring a replay of the frame, not the actual frame that happened earlier. Scrolling through all the durations, we discovered that we're spending 8 milliseconds in post-processing. That's 50% of our GPU time. Let's see what's happening there. In VR, UE4 handles post-processing for each eye separately. View 0 and View 1 under post-processing correspond to the left and right eye. Looking at all the different steps of post-processing, FFT bloom stands out as the main reason for the large computational cost of post-processing at 7.3 milliseconds. To find out what FFT bloom is, I searched for FFT bloom in the source code and find out what it is. Looking at the code, it seems to suggest that FFT bloom is one of the two types of bloom filter that UE4 supports as part of its post-processing pipeline. Alternatively, searching online for UE4 FFT bloom also suggests that FFT bloom is related to the post-process pipeline. Since post-process is enabled with a post-processing volume, there should be one in the level that can give us a better idea why FFT bloom is so computationally expensive. Under the bloom section of the post-process volume details panel, we see that the bloom method is set to convolution. Changing that to standard makes a negligible difference in the visual appearance, but let's see how that affects the performance. RenderDoc now shows that the GPU time is at 8.5 milliseconds, a dramatic reduction from 15.5 milliseconds. In conclusion, making the connection between what a profiler reports to what is happening in the game requires a deep understanding of how the game works under the hood, so it is natural to feel overwhelmed. However, as you learn more about UE4, the more optimization opportunity you will find. Some of these opportunities will turn out to be dead ends and yield no improvement. But by repeating this process, you will learn more about the engine and become proficient at making efficient games. And that covers the optimization portion of this learning path. In the next course, we will be discussing Oculus VRCs and how to make sure your app is ready to be submitted to the Oculus Store.